Welcome to the Skip and Shannon Undisputed podcast. I'm Joy Taylor. You can catch us Monday through Friday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 Pacific on FS1. Here's what this podcast is all about. It's an unscripted, unfiltered, undisputed version of the day's show, and there is a lot to get into in today's podcast. It's officially on for Sunday. Skip joins me in picking the Patriots, and Shannon takes his hometown boys of ATL. Shannon, an already enshrined member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, makes the case that T.O. should be in Cannes with a gold jacket. Two-time Super Bowl champion Eli Manning comes to the desk to tell us the secrets of beating Tom Brady not once, but twice in the Super Bowl. Pro Football Hall of Famer Chris Carter gives a powerful reaction to the Tim Brown tuck rule comments about Brady, and CC shares a Super Bowl surprise with me. Plus, 10-time Pro Bowler and Cowboys tight end Jason Witten checks in with his sneakers on to talk about the potential race and Dak and Romo. Skip and Shannon, let's debate. We're talking about this game for 2 weeks, so it's time to get Skip and Shannon's official picks. Tom Brady is playing in his NFL record 7th Super Bowl. He's won 4 and lost 2. The Falcons come into the game with the number 1 ranked offense. Matt Ryan is playing in his first Super Bowl. So it's time to make your picks. Skip, who do you have?
You want to go first?
No, go ahead, Skip. Drum roll.
You can put my pick on the board with conviction. In fact, Karen, you can slam my pick on the board. It's New England 32-20. Yeah, boo you. My logic, Mr. Sharpe, is pretty simple. I've got Tom Brady on a year-long Deflategate mission, and I've got the greatest defensive mind in NFL history with the number 1 ranked defense in pro football this year, New England's, with 2 weeks to prepare for the number 1 offense. I'd say that's game over. That's New England all day, all the way. I picked, as you recall, I picked the Patriots from day 1 of Undisputed. We launched September 6th.
Yep.
Because I told you this would be the year of Tom Brady. I told you that he was going to play possess this year to get even with an NFL commissioner who chose to sacrifice his legacy and his reputation by wrongly accusing him of cheating and lying about it. And again, the upshot of that, the goal of that was to punish the Patriots for their history of cheating. And the collateral damage, from the NFL's view, was only going to be a quarterback who was going on age 39. But for me, the silver lining, as in silver Lombardi trophy, was that Tom Brady has played with a channeled rage unlike anything I have seen since Michael Jordan. And I know it doesn't seem right to put Brady and Jordan in the same sentence because they don't seem to fit together sort of athletically. But whatever burns inside them, I was around Michael in Chicago. I got to know him well. It's channeled rage, and I sense the same sort of rage in a very different package in Tom Brady. So now Tom Brady also has a new motivation. And again, not that he wished any injury upon Rob Gronkowski, but there was always a big asterisk over the last 3 or 4 years beside Tom Brady's name. And that was that he had the benefit of throwing to a guy you've even acknowledged is going on the greatest receiving tight end in NFL history. Yes. And I think a lot of people knocked Brady for that, as in, well, would he be that good if he didn't get to throw it to that guy that nobody can cover? Well, now there's no Gronkowski, so there's no more excuse there for the Brady haters. It's Edelman or bust. Really? Julian Edelman or bust?
Chris Hogan's pretty good.
Well, is he?
He got 2 100-yard games.
Yeah, he came out of nowhere against Pittsburgh. You weren't saying he was pretty good all year.
He came out of nowhere against Houston.
Okay, but again, where was he all year?
Penn State. He
came out of nowhere. Buffalo is where he came out of. So now it's an Atlanta defense that features 4 rookies against a Tom Brady playing in his 7th Super Bowl. I got to tell you, that's a mismatch. I'm not going to say that Brady's just going to have his way all day, but you remember, his offensive line it might be the best he's ever had. So he will get protected. They can blitz all they want or whatever. I don't think they can get to Brady like they should. And in this case, let's flip it around and look at the New England defense. I think it's being underrated because do you realize against the high-flying Steeler offense that you love most of the year. How many weapons do they have? Maybe not Atlanta's weapons, but they had a whole bunch of them. Do you realize Pittsburgh managed to score 9 points in that game of the AFC Championship game at Foxborough until 3:36 remaining in the game? Only 9 points. And I remind you, it was the mastermind Belichick who, in their first breakthrough Super Bowl against the greatest show on turf, the St. Louis Rams, a 14-point favorite that day, they held the greatest show on turf to 17 points. I think we'll see more of the same against Matt Ryan's high-flying offense. So remember, Atlanta's averaged 34 points, but New England's defense only averaged allowing 16 points. That's an 18-point difference. But I'm going to go with the number one defense with Belichick versus the number one offense featuring a Matt Ryan who has never played in this game. Nerves are going to play a bigger role in Matt Ryan's performance than obviously it will in Tom Brady's performance. So I'm going to see 2 turnovers for Atlanta, no turnovers for New England. I see Brady to Edelman and then a heavy dose of 250-pound LeGarrette Blount moving the chains, controlling the football, playing keep away, winning the time of possession like 34-26, that kind of a discrepancy in time of possession, which will allow them to win the game 32-20. Put it on the board. Thank you.
Well, Karen, you don't have to slam mine on the board, but I'm just as strong in my conviction with my pick as you are with yours.
I'm not sure about that.
I got the Atlanta Falcons 35-30. 2017 has been the breakthrough season for a lot of teams having to skip. We saw the Chicago Cubs, after a 108-year drought, win the World Series. We saw a Cleveland sports franchise, after 54 years, win the NBA title. LeBron James, the king, brought that back to Cleveland.
Wait, they lucked into it. They lucked into it. I mean, Draymond got suspended, but that's okay. There's an asterisk.
And so after 51 years, the Atlanta Falcons will bring the second title to Atlanta. They're going to beat the New England Patriots, Skip. First of all, let me tell you how they do it. They got to stay away from negative plays on first down. You cannot be 2nd and 13, 2nd and 12. Stay away from the negative plays on first down. You can't be good on third down. You must be great. If you look at them on third down in the playoffs, they're 64%. That'll win you a lot of games, because what you need to do is, when you have their defense, the Patriots defense on the field, keep them on the field, because, you know, once they go to the sideline, Coach Belichick, Coach Patricia, Matt Patricia, the defensive coordinator, they're going to make their adjustments. It's hard to make adjustments when you're on the field. So keep them on the field, be good on third down. Skip, you got to keep your eye on your luggage. No turnovers. Turnovers, you play double in the Super Bowl, because we saw last year, Carolina Panthers turned the football over. What happened? It was a totally different ball game. In the red zone, if you take away the kneel down, the Atlanta Falcons have had 12 red zone possessions. They've scored 9 touchdowns. That's how you win ball games. You can't kick field goals against this team. You must score touchdowns. And when you do that, your defense, their smallest defense, Skip, Dan Quinn, he came from Seattle, and Pete Carroll, they're built to play with the lead. You hear DeMarcus Ware talking about, when we had Peyton, we get out to you early, and now Vaughn and myself, we could get out to the quarterback. That's what they're going to have to do. Coach Belichick, knowing him like I know him, he knows what they possess firepower-wise, the Atlanta Falcons. He's going to probably come out trying to run the football, Skip, because Atlanta can't win a close ball game. New England can win a 21-17 or a 24-20 ball game. Atlanta Falcons can only win one way: get into a shootout. Make it a 35-30 ball game. Make it a 40-something point ball game, because that's what they are. That's who they are. And I get it that when they beat the greatest show on turf, I still do not believe the greatest show on turf that year is better than what I've seen from the Atlanta Falcons this year. Matt Ryan has been lights out. 11 turnovers. They have the fewest turnovers, tied with the Patriots, the fewest turnovers all year. In the playoffs, they have yet to turn the football over. Skip, they're going to put pressure on them. I don't think Coach Belichick and the Patriots defense, because normally when you see the best defense, when you get number one offense, number one defense go, they normally have pressure guys up front. New England really can't pressure the quarterback. No. You said it yourself. They didn't even touch Ben Roethlisberger.
They did not.
And I know the big three is really, really good. But Pittsburgh's offense can't touch Atlanta Falcons' offense. They're the real deal. And because of that. And look, I know, how do you pick against Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, 7 Super Bowls, they won 4? Easy, I just picked against them. 35-30, the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, but you picked against my Cowboys 8 times and lost this year also. So how about that? That happened.
And what did I tell you? I just need to be right once. It's like playing the lottery. Skip, and you know what? You hammered me all year long with this stat, Joy, and this finally something you're going to say, you know what, Shannon, you're right. You talked about how the Cowboys average 10 plays per drive.
Yep.
That's the number 1 in all of football. Who finished the regular season with the most 10-play drives, Skip Bayless?
New England?
Nah. At the Atlanta Falcons. Skip, they're number 1 in big plays, number 1 in 10-play drives, and they're number 2 in quick strikes.
Wait, have they played the number 1 defense in pro football yet? No, they're about to.
Skip. They're the number 1 scoring defense. Statistically, the fewest yards allowed is by the Houston Texans.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure
I got it, but to me, I'm a points man, not a yards man.
Okay.
Did you keep them out of the end zone?
Right.
The best defense at keeping the opponent out of the end zone was New England's all year long. You can question their quality of competition, but they did it consistently.
Yeah, the Jets and Buffalo and Miami and the Houston Texans. Wow, they're loaded.
And the Pittsburgh Steelers that you originally picked to be in this game.
But
right?
Le'Veon Bell got hurt. That's not an excuse. They won the ball game. They're here. But the Atlanta Falcons with the fire, they have no weakness. They can pass protect. Think about it. They have a number. Normally, when the number 1 offense comes, Skip, they're the number 1 pass offense. They have a top 5 run offense, a top 5 pass offense. They have no weakness offensively. They can pass protect. 13 different receivers scored a touchdown. There's a reason why Matt Ryan is going to win the MVP Saturday night, which I will be in attendance. The applause. I'll be clapping like that right there.
Wait, are you going to award him? You're handing him the trophy?
No, I'm just going to be in the audience. I'm going to be standing up just like, bravo, 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 Matt Ryan.
Just like you drove LeBron's car in the parade, didn't you?
Stop hating!
Am I right?
I foresaw of that great moment happening.
Yes.
I dreamed of this moment that Matt Ryan would have red and black confetti raining down on his head. We are the champions playing in the background, and Skip Bayless being miserable. I got to deal with Shannon Sharpe on Monday.
You know what? I am not worried, and I have one final question for Mr. Sharpe.
Yes.
Are you sure that your bias isn't showing here because Matt Ryan is your neighbor where you live in Atlanta?
What does that have to do with anything?
Could that be? Could it be? I'm just throwing it out there.
Well, I can't live in Tom Brady's neighborhood, so I got to Skip. Early this, since September at the quarter poll, when we took who was the MVP, I said Matt Ryan was the MVP. I believe he's played the most consistent football of all the quarterbacks because Tom missed a quarter of the season. But since he's been back, he's played phenomenal. Aaron Rodgers had a stretch as great as any quarterback has ever had in the 97-year history. But if you start from week 1 and go all the way to week 17, the guy number 2 with the bird, the dirty bird, he's played the best, Skip. And I told you this, when them dirty birds drop, you better hit the floor.
I am supremely confident in my pick.
Me
Thank
too.
you.
Well, we both confident.
All right, well, I haven't made a pick all season, but since it's a Super Bowl, I'm going to. And I have the Patriots 30, Atlanta 27.
Why you all of a sudden now you want to make a pick? All of a sudden now.
It's the Super Bowl.
Where are the Dolphins? Where are the Dolphins?
Where are the Broncos? Where are the Ravens?
We were here last year.
We're now joined by 2-time Super Bowl champ, Eli Manning. Welcome to
You bad. Eli Manning, a.k.a. the Pats killer.
We've had you on on the show technically before, but this time it's in person. We have a cutout that we bring on set sometimes with us. Eli, you are one of the finalists for the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award, which is a huge honor. It's presented by Nationwide. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, just an honor. Anytime you're mentioned in the same sentence as Walter Payton, that's first off a thrill. But really proud of the NFL Nationwide for highlighting a lot of the great works that players are doing around the league for their communities. And to give me a platform to talk about my charities and tackle kids' cancer and the hospital, Children's of Mississippi, and the hospital in Jackson, Mississippi, only Children's Hospital, to raise awareness and funds for those charities. That's who's the real winner here this week.
So, Eli Manning. That was all great what you just talked about, but I got to tell you, you have been my nemesis my whole football life. You beat my Dallas Cowboys not once, but twice this year. And you broke my heart twice. You beat Tom Brady in 2 Super Bowls. Forgive me for this, but I have termed the pass that you completed to David Tyree as the luckiest pass in the history of the Super Bowl. And now that you're here on our set, and we appreciate this very much, could you please give us your breakdown on how that play unfolded, that 3rd and forever, where you escaped 4 pass rushers and got loose?
I think you kind of summed it up. It's probably the luckiest play in NFL.
Really?
You can see it. No one really blocked anybody. I'm almost sacked. Just kind of rolled out, throw it up for grabs,
Okay,
and David Tyree catches it off his helmet. That's how he drew it up in practice.
See, I told you. I told you.
I never thought it'd work, but sure enough, it did. You know?
Okay, so you were never the most mobile guy, but on this play, you did escape like 4 sort of arm tackles, but what got into you? What was happening?
Those power cleans and squats I did. You know about that. They didn't tackle me. They kind of had their hand on me. If they don't tackle you, you don't go down. And
did you actually aim at Tyree, or did you just throw it as far as you could throw it?
I think I saw kind of a white jersey around there.
And he had caught like 6 balls all year, so he was your primary receiver.
He was due.
He was due. And then he does go up over Rodney Harrison, a pretty good player. I don't know what Rodney was thinking, but should have gotten a hand on the ball. But David Tyree sort of sticks it in his face mask and comes down with it.
Yeah, and it's one of those deals right there. I didn't know if he caught it or not. You want to run down there and try to run a play so they don't review it. But we had to take a timeout, and just so it doesn't take too much long. And I'm asking David. I said, David, did you catch it? And a lot of receivers always say yes.
Yeah,
I don't know why you can't be truthful. It's not making a difference. The film's gonna show it. I'm like, David, you're a Christian. You're bad. Tell me the truth. Did you catch it? He's like, I caught it. I said, all right, let's go.
And he did catch it.
He caught it.
Definitely caught it. And by the way, then you completed the deal. You hit Plaxico to win the game. But you canceled Brady's touchdown pass to Randy Moss with 2 minutes left. Right. So did that give you any special significance that you beat Tom Brady that day?
No, it wasn't about beating Tom Brady. It's about holding that Lombardi trophy. It's about celebrating with your teammates, about bringing a trophy to New York and your fans. It's not about, when you win a championship, it's all kind of personal. It's all about your team, your organization, and it's not about beating someone else or someone else not getting it. Nothing against Tom Brady, nothing against the Patriots, and just happened to be they were in our path both times.
But it wasn't a little more special. You stopped 19-0, an undefeated season.
I did get a lot of letters and calls from Miami Dolphins fans, players, Coach Shula, and those players on those teams. I think they were very appreciative. But to kind of go against arguably one of the greatest teams of all time, and would have been the greatest team of all time. You go undefeated, and to hold them from that, I guess that's pretty neat.
When you look at this game, obviously Matt Ryan has had a fantastic season. I believe he'll be the league's MVP. How do you see this game playing out?
Yeah, I think both teams are playing great, and obviously you had two of the best quarterbacks that are playing this year, and Tom's been great his whole career. So has Matt. And I think I think it's going to be, high scoring. I think both offenses will be able to move the ball and make plays. And, I think it should be a great game. I think it'll be close. I think it will come down to the fourth quarter, and kind of one of those games is who gets the ball last or who makes some big-time plays in the fourth quarter. And the thing about both teams are explosive on offense. Even if they get down 10 points, 12 points, they can come back real quick and get right back in the game and make it close. So I think it'll be a tight game and come down to the end.
Well, Matt Ryan mentioned earlier this week that he's been texting you and getting some information about how to go about certain things. You helping him?
No, Matt's a buddy of mine. I've known him for a long time, and just throughout our careers, always kind of stayed in touch and calls and text messages. So just kind of been sending him text messages through the playoff run, and when they beat Green Bay, to send him a text, just wishing him luck in the Super Bowl, and just keep doing his thing. He's been playing great all year, and so no advice, no, hey, you got to throw it to the flat. Nothing to tell him. He's going to do fine, and he's ready to go.
So, Eli, to me, it is significant. You beat Tom Brady head-to-head twice, and now you're picking against Tom Brady on this game this Sunday. So is it because you don't buy completely into the great Tom Brady, or what?
No, I think Tom is great. He's going to go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. His consistency is unmatched, and the fact he's going into his 7th Super Bowl, it's crazy. It's unheard of, and he's been fabulous in playoffs, and so nothing against him. I guess maybe you just want to give another guy a shot at it, and Matt's a guy just been around him a bunch, and one of my buddies, and just want him to get a chance at a Super Bowl. So nothing against Tom and Coach Belichick and what they've been able to do. Try to emulate their success and what they've been able to accomplish.
Eli said beating them in the Super Bowl is fairly easy. So, I mean, what's the big deal about it?
Well, that's true. I mean, he ain't afraid. That's true.
I don't remember saying that.
So speaking of a guy who might deserve his shot pretty soon, you competed against Dak Prescott. What did you see in that rookie quarterback this year?
Impressed from the week one. Obviously, we played on week one of the season. Here's the rookie coming in, starting the first game of the year, and played great that first game.
Pretty good.
And from there on, just gotten better and better, and just the control he had of that offense and making checks and checking the runs, checking the passes, moving the pocket. He did everything you wanted from your quarterback and protected the football. And so, known Dak, watched him play at college. He came to our passing camp in college, got to be around him. And so, I knew Dak a little bit, but the season he had, and obviously had, gave his team a chance to win a playoff game also.
By the way, will you please explain to my partner how wet the balls were that night up at your place?
Eli, don't walk into that trap, Eli. He's trying to minimize
Did you hear what he said? It was brutal.
It was brutal.
It was tough. I mean, it was tough. The first pass of the game, I had a little flat route. It came out wobbly. I'm like, it's tough to throw.
Right, and the interception.
But you found a way to make it throw the whole day, right?
Slipped out of hand.
But you found a way to.
Nice little slant.
Okay.
Easy slant. It was tough. Now, I'm not saying it was tough that game, and I know he had some balls come out. It was just one of those cold and slick and kind of snow that had melted a little bit, and just we're getting balls that were just coming back. That were wet. It didn't seem like a wet game. It wasn't raining, so it was tough conditions. And that's what you get. You get in the Northeast in December. You're gonna get tough conditions, and it's just about kind of hanging in there and trying to make a few plays, which we were able to make.
Eli, we can't let you go. The boat trip. Did that play a part in you guys losing in Green Bay, or did you wish you would handle it differently?
I just wish I was invited. It's one of those deals that I don't think it had a factor in the playoff game. It's just, but it is a learning experience, and Odell, it's just he did everything right all season long. The guy practices great. He plays with passion. He wants to be good. He wants to do all the right things, and he's just learning that everything he does is, people are going to watch and they're going to analyze, they're going to talk about.
Right.
And so you just want to make sure if they're talking about you, try to make it be positive, or make it be about, hey, if they want to analyze your touchdown dance, or you want to get engaged to a kick and pull, that's all fine. It's all good. It's touchdowns. It's positive stuff. It's not a distraction. But when it could affect the team or could have an impact, and teams got to start to kind of defend for you, it's probably not a good idea. So it's a learning situation, but I do not think it affected the outcome of the game. We're down 1 point. and midway through the third quarter of that game, and then things turned. Rodgers got hot, and they made a couple plays defensively, and we just couldn't get back in it.
Eli, thanks for joining us. Who would have thought it, Shannon? He agreed with everything that Skip said. No mercy. So Terrell Owens did not make it on his first year of eligibility last year, but he's a finalist again. T.O. is second all-time in receiving yards and third all-time in touchdown receptions. So Skip, you have said that T.O. doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame in the past. Have you changed your mind at all?
Shannon, you and I have argued about this all season long.
We have.
And I have maintained the very same stance that I took the day Terrell Owens retired. And I believe it more than ever. And I've heard your arguments, and I've heard Ray Lewis's arguments. And I have talked to Terrell face-to-face about this several times on live national TV. So I know his heart. This is not personal. This is business. This is Hall of Fame business to me. He does not belong in the Hall of Fame. And I despise this notion. I despise the notion that we hear that Hall of Fame voters punish a potential Hall of Famer. It takes you, 3 times to get in, and Chris Carter 6 times. That's so wrong to me. You're either in the Hall of Fame or you're not in the Hall of Fame. I've told you from the start. This is just me, my 2 cents. I'm not in the Hall of Fame. I don't have a vote, but this is how I view my Hall of Fame. My test is, if I have to think twice about you, you're not in my Hall of Fame. I mean, Tom Brady, Hall of Famer. Did you have to think twice about it? And if we go back in the recent past, Deion Sanders, Hall of Famer. Right. I don't have to. Emmitt Smith, Hall of Famer. Jerry Rice, Hall of Famer. Michael Irvin, Hall of Famer. Bam! There's no doubt about it. There's no second guessing of it.
But they do punish, because that's why Charles Haley had to wait
Charles
15
Haley,
years
are you
with 5
kidding
Super
me?
Bowls.
Well, and I said this from the start. Charles Haley was in my Hall of Fame, and I had nothing but battles with him when I covered the Dallas Cowboys back in the 90s. I don't really like Charles off the field. He was all over me half the time, but I loved him as a player, so there's no personal going on there. He was in his 5 Super Bowl rings. He's in the Hall of Fame. He was a game-changing pass rusher.
Dominant force on all those teams.
On the 49ers and the Cowboys.
Yes.
You stop it. So I don't want to hear that. And it offends me that they try to punish these players. Now back to Terrell. And I feel like I don't want to beat this to a pulp, because I feel like every time we bring this up, I have to reiterate, Terrell Owens tore apart 3 teams. And I covered the first one, the San Francisco 49ers. He verbally attacked his head coach, Mariucci, and then the coordinator, and then he even threw the quarterback who threw it to him and threw a lot of sweet balls to him, Jeff Garcia, completely under that bus. Then he goes to Philly for his fresh start and quickly turns on his soulmate and roommate in the first training camp, Donovan McNabb. And then he turns on the head coach that really loved him and wanted him, Andy Reid. And then he got into it with his coordinator, Childress. And then all of a sudden, they throw him out. They send him home. Remember in Philadelphia? You're out of here. And then a Hall of Fame coach in Dallas says, I don't want any part of this guy. And Jerry Jones says, yes, we do, because he's box office. And I don't have any. Terrell was big. I loved watching him play.
Get your popcorn
the antics,
ready.
Get your popcorn ready. Pom-poms. I get all that. It was fun to watch him play. But he was the most divisive locker room force in the history of football in my eyes. So he goes to Dallas and obviously immediately rebels against Parcells. Then he has a big issue, an incident with his receivers coach, Todd Haley, which led to a near fight with the man who was sitting over here at the top of the show, Jason Witten. They went nose to nose on the practice field over the whole concept. Terrell's saying Romo's throwing it more to Witten than to Terrell. Well, look, Terrell's had some emotional issues that he's struggled with off the field. Sometimes they get the best of him. And in the end, I feel like he hurt those teams more than he helped. 3 really good teams. All 3 had a chance to get to this game. And so in the end, when I back off and look at it in perspective, this is just my 2 cents. He wouldn't be in my Hall of Fame because the numbers lie. They don't tell the complete story. You can throw all the numbers, and they're sensational, but they don't give you the complete picture of what a divisive force he was in those locker rooms. About half the locker room loved him, and half didn't want him on the football team. So in the end, that impacted the ability of those 3 teams to win football games, not in my Hall of Fame. And you know what? I get it. I think Terrell has a lot of fans. In fact, I think I've actually helped you in a lot of ways. I've turned him into something more of a sympathetic figure. But go ahead.
Skip, I will speak for T.O. because I don't think he needs to make the argument for himself anymore. His numbers should speak for themselves. 1,078 catches, that's top 10 all time. 15,934, that's second all time. 153 receiving touchdowns, that's third all time. Skip, the Hall of Fame is about accomplishments. When they put on his plaque, they're going to say he played for the San Francisco 49ers this many years. He played with the Eagles this many. Dallas, Buffalo. None of his transgressions will be on that plaque. Now, if he was going for sainthood, T.O. got no chance. But that's not what this is about. This is about the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Skip, I think there's like 170 living members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame out of 320. I haven't talked to all of them, but the guys that I've talked to believe that Terrell Owens is a Hall of Famer because you can't, Skip, he's a 5-time first-team All-Pro on 3 different teams. There have only been 3 other guys that can say that in the history, 97-year history. They've been playing football for 97 years. Only 3 guys can say, I've been an All-Pro on 3 different teams. One of them you mentioned, Deion Sanders. He's in the Hall of Fame. The other is Ted Hendricks. He's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He's led 5 different teams in receiving. You keep telling me he tore apart a lot of different teams. When T.O. left, how good was San Francisco?
Well, I can tell you what the GM would say, because I was really close. Terry Donahue said he wrecked our franchise and just left us for dead, basically.
No, I think Terry Donahue with the terrible picks left that franchise for dead. Okay, the Eagles. When T.O. left, how did they do after T.O. left?
Well, I can tell you this.
I want you to tell me how they
made it to the Super Bowl. They won 2 games with no Terrell Owens. That's how they made it to that Super Bowl.
Oh, you know what? I had a feeling you might say that, but do you know that T.O. was an All-Pro that year? After missing 3 games, the final 3 games, he was still a first-team All-Pro.
Okay, how did they get to the Super Bowl without him? Maybe they were a little better without him.
The man had 15 touchdowns in 12 games. That helped get to the Super Bowl. Super Bowl, the dude had 9 for $122 playing with a broken ankle 6 weeks earlier.
So he rushed back to the Super Bowl
and gave him the business.
He did not. Who won that game?
The Patriots won.
Yeah, they did. And you know why they won it? Because I've had 3 different Eagles who played on that team, and you know who they are, but I can't call their names. Tell me that they felt like Terrell rushed back, forced himself back into the lineup, and that Donovan got too T.O. conscious in the game because he could not run on that bad, whatever it was, ankle.
9 for 122, what was he doing? He's in a wheelchair?
The Patriots saying, here, you can have that, you can have that. And he caught how many touchdown passes?
He caught none.
Game? Caught none. Thank you very much.
Skip, think about this. You know what? I knew Skip was going to go here, so I already built my argument to get him. On that field with Terrell Owens that day was Freddie Mitchell. I said if I had Freddie Mitchell's hands, I would cut mine off, and the only thing I could eat is donuts. After that Super Bowl game, Freddie Mitchell never played another game. Also on the Eagles staff was Todd Pinkston.
I know him.
After that game, he never played another down. Also on that field was Greg Lewis. Greg Lewis, in his 9-year career, had 1 season in which he caught 25 balls or more.
And who caught the touchdown pass to get Philly back in the Super Bowl against New England? Greg Lewis caught it. Not Terrell Owens, little Greg Lewis from nowhere.
The dude played 9 years and 1 season only, had more than 25 catches. Think about it, Skip. I believe I can go out there right now and get 15.
And guess what? You might be able to. Guess what? Donovan McNabb got that team with those receivers all the way to the Super Bowl with no Terrell Owens.
Skip, the man had 15 touchdowns. He was an All-Pro. But see, here's the problem that I have. Everybody, all these reporters, not all, but a lot of these guys vote for the All-Pro team. Although T.O. was doing all these antics, they still thought T.O. was the best receiver in football because they voted him All-Pro. Now they can provide him with the ultimate validation. He can do no more catching because if he didn't love his 1,078, 15,000, 153, if you didn't love it last year, how does it look better this year? I told him, after I didn't get in the first time, I said, if you don't like 10,000 yards, 60-plus touchdowns, 815 catches, I can't go back out there and add to that total.
And by the way, you should have been on the first ballot.
And so when you look at it, Skip, you look at what T.O. has done. I don't care nothing about those antics because in the bylaws, they say you're not supposed to do that because they look at, I'm saying, hold on, wait a minute. Brett Favre held the Packers hostage for 4 years. but they applauded him for that. Brett Favre had some indiscretions off the field about the sideline lady with the Jets. But nobody mentioned that because you know what? You know why? See, this is what I've learned. When we like somebody, we will build the case for them no matter what. But when we don't, oh man, he tore locker rooms apart. If T.O. was allowed to tear the locker room apart, it tells me the locker room was weak to begin with. Because there was not a locker room. I played 14 years in 2 different locker rooms, and there's not a locker room. Nobody can tell you in Denver or Baltimore was the locker room ever torn apart by nobody, and we had a lot of different personalities.
Okay, but you were a team leader. Terrell Owens was a team obliterator. That's what I called it.
So they didn't have no team leaders in San Francisco?
No.
So what was Donovan?
Listen, Terrell Owens was a force of nature in a locker room. It split it apart because he was so polarizing. Half the locker room one way, half the other way. When I first wrote about him in my days in San Francisco, early days with the 49ers when he was there, I was the biggest T.O. supporter in print, in public. And I had one player after another pull me aside and said, "What are you thinking? You have no idea what's going on in here because we're not going to be able to win with this guy." And that opened my eyes, and I started to see the truth about him. Terrell was a model citizen off the field. He has no transgression, no law breaking.
No.
He had code breaking in the locker room. And to me, that impacted the football. Like you say, Brett Favre, I don't care what Brett did off the field because after he held the team hostage, he came back and had his best year ever at age 39 and took the Vikings to the Super Bowl. Remember that? I mean, to the championship game.
But Skip, he's holding. So that plays no part in it. The Packers really couldn't go on because is Brett going to retire? Is Brett going to play? Is he going to show up in training camp? I mean, what's going on here?
He showed up on August 1st. He's a veteran player. You didn't like training camp.
I love training camp.
You did not.
I did too.
Not at the end, you didn't.
No, Skip, I didn't have a problem because I understand that's part of it. It's like dealing with the media is a part of my job if I play in the National Football League. Training camp is a part of my job. Now, I got tired of the meetings during the regular season because I had heard it so much. But I love training camp. And by the way, after T.O. left the Cowboys, how did they do? So, hold on.
Wait a second. Let me ask a better question. With T.O., how did they do with the #1 seed playing at home? They lost.
Oh, like this year. They did the same thing this year. They did So let me get this right. So with harmony in the locker room, no T.O., everything is flowing well. 13-3, and what happened?
I would disagree with that.
Wait, you mean this year?
Yeah.
Jerry
I know what happened.
What happened?
The hand of God.
There was no hand of
It was
God.
the hand of God. The field goal was hooking left, and the hand of God moved it back in. You know it, and I know it.
That's the most.
They shouldn't be right here, right
know
now.
what?
They would have beaten the Falcons in the next game.
I'm going to have to agree with Skip. That was the hand of God. Because Aaron Rodgers, he was God-like in that ball game. Skip, look. Had I been on that team, I'd have probably been like, T.O., you make me sick. Now give me 3 touchdowns today.
Yeah, and you know what? You weren't on that team.
No, but Skip, his numbers, look. I see better than I hear. I hear what everybody's saying about how he split locker room. I hear how he threw his teammates up under the bus. But when I watch him, ask yourself, in the era that T.O. played, he and Randy Moss were the de facto #2 receivers. And that's with Reggie Wayne, that's with Marvin Harrison, that's with Larry Fitzgerald. And that's not to take anything away from those other guys. But in my book, T.O. is the second best receiver that's ever played football.
Hey, Terrell Owens does not belong in the same sentence with Randy Moss. Not in the same sentence. Every time, go look at their numbers head to head, because I was there. Every time T.O. went up against Moss, he was choking his guts out, dropping balls, and Randy Moss is cruising with one big touchdown catch after another.
So T.O.
showed him up.
So T.O. play DB now? They going head to head? How they go head to head?
No mercy. Let's go back in time. Let's go back to January 19th, 2002. Tom Brady's apparent fumble in the fourth quarter against the Raiders was ruled an incomplete pass. The Patriots went on to win that game and their first Super Bowl in franchise history. Former Raider Tim Brown talked this week about now the infamous tuck rule play. Let's take a listen.
I tell people all the time, if Tom Brady would just start out every interview by saying, "I want to thank the Oakland Raiders," then I'll be happy. Then I would let it go. But until that day happens, I'm not going to let it go. Because think about this: if he loses that game, he's a kid that lost a home game to a West Coast team in the snow.
Yeah.
You know, so he's not starting the next year. You know what I mean? Bledsoe is back starting.
That's interesting.
It's because of that, you know, because we were the Raiders. Any other team,
Right.
that game is over. But because it was the Raiders,
It's so fast.
they took 12 minutes to come up with an answer, but finally they came up with something.
Chris, what's your take?
Well, they actually changed the rule after the play, but Tim is not the only Raider, not as a player. Charles Woodson, he said things before in the past. A lot of their coaches and front office, they thought that was a huge change potentially in the Raiders. Actually, both the franchise went in opposite directions after that. They changed the rule after it, but what can you do? You think that play, even if he hadn't made that play, that Tom Brady still wasn't going to end up being who Tom Brady is. Now, that's a nice theory. But at the end of the day, Tom Brady has dominated in every situation. And if that had been called a fumble, he would have used that as fuel, as he has done a number of other things to reach the point he's at. You know, I do believe in certain type of destiny. No matter where you are, certain type of people, if they get in the right environment, they're going to be successful. Tom Brady was going to be a winner in life, regardless if he played quarterback for New England, regardless of what he decided to do, go into business or whatever. He is that type of person. He has that type of aura, and there's that type of leadership around him. So he would have responded under that situation in any manner in a great way.
For me, I agree to a certain extent, CC. It's hard to say that he wouldn't have been Tom Brady as we know him today, but it would have changed the narrative because he would have been a quarterback that lost a home divisional playoff game to a wild card team. So now the narrative, he's 0-1 in the playoffs. He started his career 9-0 with 3 Super Bowl wins.
Yep.
So it changes the narrative of how we view him because he would have had a home loss on his resume. Because as Tim said, that was a West Coast team beating a cold weather team in the snow on their home field. So it changes the narrative, and it changes how we view and how we perceive Tom Brady. But it's hard for me to say, well, he would not have had success because I don't believe that. I believe he would have had success, but it's a totally different dynamic. And I looked up, I said, the tuck rule. When an offensive player is holding the ball to pass it forward, any intentional forward movement of his arm starts as a forward pass, even if the player loses possession of the ball as he's attempting to tuck it back towards his body. Also, if the player has tucked the ball into his body and then loses possession, it's a fumble. That was a fumble. Mr. Al Davis went to his grave. He believed that in that 12-minute process of a call, that someone in the NFL office told him about this rule. He went to his grave believing that. I know a lot of people close to Mr. Davis. He believed that to his dying days. Skip, I still believe Tom Brady would have had success, but the narrative of how we view him would be totally different.
I'm with both of you. This only delayed the inevitable. But I was covering that Oakland Raiders team. I was there that night. I was in the press box behind one of the top Raider executives, Amy Trask. And the longer that review took place, it went on for maybe 10 minutes.
It was like 12 minutes.
At about the 8-minute mark, Amy Trask turned around to me and said, "Would you please call 911? I'm about to have a heart attack," because she saw what was coming.
Yep.
Then, to your point, Al Davis pulled me aside at the next training camp and said he had it from a very credible NFL office source that the commissioner was on the phone from New York to reverse the call on the field. It was called a fumble. It was an outrageous fumble. It was a clear, blatant fumble.
Absolutely.
And by the way, just for those who forget what the point in the game it would have ended the football
right,
game.
yes.
Okay, so Oakland wins because Oakland did clearly recover the fumble.
Correct.
Now, there's a key difference, though, in what had already occurred within the Patriots organization that has not yet occurred with my Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott and Tony Romo. Remember, Belichick had already made it clear at that point he was going forward with Tom Brady as his starting quarterback. Bledsoe had gotten healthy and was cleared to return when they were 5-5. Then they went on a 6-game winning streak to end the season. They were the 2 seed, so they had a home game like Atlanta did this year. They, again, they should have lost it, but they won it, and then they went to the AFC title game in Pittsburgh and Brady got hurt, and Bledsoe took over and won the game. Was there any question asked about who was going to start the Super Bowl? No, there was no issue. Belichick made it clear. My starting quarterback is Tom Brady. If he's healthy enough to go in the Super Bowl, even on his bad ankle, he's going to play the Super Bowl, and obviously he was the MVP. The big difference was that Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, was not in love with Drew Bledsoe the way Jerry Jones loves Tony Romo like a son. So there was no conflict. And as soon as the season was over, Belichick went into business to trade Bledsoe and ended up dumping him to a division rival, Buffalo, because he was so unthreatened by Drew Bledsoe. So the decks were cleared for Brady, and maybe the next year, remember they had Super Bowl hangover. They went 9-7 the next year, but he had his first ring. Well, maybe they don't have a hangover. Maybe they bounce back and win the next year's Super Bowl, because I'm with Chris. I mean, Tom Brady was going to be Tom Brady. It might have taken a different path. It might have taken a little longer.
Yeah.
It just delayed the inevitable. But the key was that Belichick went full force forward with Tom Brady as his quarterback. And sure, if they'd lost that game as they should have, there would have been some grumbling in New England.
Yes.
The kid lost a home playoff game to a West Coast team. Really?
And for Mr. Kraft not to have a problem with Coach Belichick trading Drew Bledsoe after he had already given him a $100 million contract. But it also might have changed the narrative of one Cordell Stewart, because he was the quarterback in the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Raiders would have had to go to Pittsburgh. So who knows? Maybe Cordell goes to the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl. So there are a lot of moving pieces.
Man, what's in your cup? Okay? Cordell Stewart is not going to win no Super Bowl.
No, I'm saying
maybe Tecmo Bowl, maybe fantasy football, but you really stretching it.
No, but I'm do you think
just like you stretching that outfit?
Let me ask you a question. But let me ask you a question. Do you think the Raiders would have gone to Pittsburgh and beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh?
Now, that would have been a tough task.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying.
Back-to-back in New England, and then you got to travel back out in 6 more days to Pittsburgh.
And that's maybe that changed the narrative of how we. Now, who's to say that Cordell would have beaten Kurt Warner? We don't know that. But I believe they would have won that game, and we have a different perspective, because we view guys that get to the Super Bowl differently than guys that do not get to the Super Bowl.
Okay, but look, Cordell's a good friend of mine. Yeah. I'm with Chris. I don't think they would have. I don't think he would have beaten Rich Gannon, because Rich Gannon was on his way to being the NFL MVP the next year.
Hold on. You do know what happened. We had just beaten Rich Gannon the year before. Okay. So let's not make it seem like that.
We?
The Baltimore Ravens.
Oh, well, you're the Ravens.
No, Ed wasn't there at the time. Okay. So I love Rich, and he was the MVP. But let's not make it seem like he was ordained to be this great quarterback. He had played 15, 16 years. He was your quarterback in Minnesota.
Okay, you just wanted us to bring up that game because you made the only play, right? You made the only play in the game.
I skipped.
Can we see that play? No, we don't want to see that play.
Drink that with your liquor. Water.
A little chaser.
No mercy.
Houston, how about this Cowboy?
Jason is here on behalf of Courtyard. What are you doing with them?
Yeah, Courtyard had a competition all year, and it was pretty neat for fans to go submit their best photo. And the winner, who's Frankie, he's a big Cowboys fan. He and his girlfriend get to have an opportunity to come to the game. And really cool what Courtyard's doing is they're allowing him, they made it a suite, a bedroom. So he's literally going to sleep in the stadium in a suite in the Courtyard. And then, of course, he'll wake up and have an opportunity to go to the game and great seats. And hopefully I get to spend a little time with his epic weekend.
Awesome.
So, Mr. Witten, before we get started, let me apprise you that my partner across the table and I, he's in the Hall of Fame. Now, he's approaching the age of, is it 50-ish, somewhere in there?
I'll be 49.
49.
4 months.
And he has submitted to me all year long that even now, even in his street shoes, he could outrun this man, Jason Witten. Could you please back up me and back up Joy, who have tried to educate him on the fact that he would have no chance against you right now?
Just in case he wore his sneakers, I wore my sneakers just in case.
Don't look like Brandon.
They don't.
Yeah, Shannon, when you get off the bus, you want guys that look like Shannon Sharpe. You want those guys to get out first, He's certainly somebody I've looked up to my entire career when I came in. And, I brought my shoes just in case, because I couldn't go anywhere in the barber shop, without people talking about it all year.
So you've heard about this?
I've heard about it. But
Is there any chance of a match race right out here on Discovery Green?
Whatever you guys want to do, I'm here for you. But I'll tell you what. Now I know he's got a few of those Super Bowl rings, so he had to come on this set. That's what we're really I'm running after, and would love to have an opportunity to go get. So.
By the way,
You're gonna have to do a little more than that.
in this race, I would make Jason Witten a 5-yard favorite at 40 yards. I'm sorry.
You got no confidence in your partner?
You're chained to a bike now, an exercise bike. You can't run. You can't run.
I can't believe you, Skip.
I would have a better chance against Jason than you would.
After all you and I have been through, you turn your back on me.
I love you, man. Let's get with it.
All right, let's do it. So what is it to you to not be here at the Super Bowl? What happened in the Packers game?
Yeah, well, it hurts. I think when you take the kind of narrow lens view on things and know that how hard it is to get through that moment, and get to the playoffs, and to you give Green Bay credit. They made a lot of great plays, and the margin's so small when you get in those moments, and so that's tough. When you look back on it, it's been hard for somebody like myself in the 14th year to have an opportunity to win 13 games and get the bye and win the East and have everything set up the way it did, and then to come up short. It's hard to evaluate that, but this team really did a lot of great things. You would start with our young players, thinking back in August when Tony went down, to look and say, hey, you're going to win 11 straight and have an opportunity to play the type of season we had, and with the young players playing at that high of a level. It's hard to make that transition from college to NFL, and those two did a great job.
Now, you had the bye. How much did it hurt you to have those few weeks off? Do you think that affected you?
I really don't. I think it's easy to talk about that, but you earn that. And Shane, you know this.
Absolutely.
You earn that opportunity to have that bye, and it just comes down to when you have the chance to play, you got to be able to make those plays. And we fought back. We were down early. I thought we did a great job fighting back into it, and then it's a tight game, and they made some great plays down the stretch. And that's what we love about this league. But, we have to evaluate it. We got to get better. We have to look at it. And you don't just pick up where you left off going into the next season. You have to go earn it. And I think this team understands that.
Good.
So do you look back on this as a leader of the team, if not the leader of the team, and you look at your defense, and to Joy's point, you actually had 3 weeks without playing a meaningful football game, and the defense just wasn't ready for the level, the onslaught that Green Bay was playing at their high level on offense. Do you look at it as should you have played harder against Philly or played longer as the starting units against Philly to keep your edge?
Yeah, I really don't think you can look at it that way because, now we'd be talking about something else if somebody got hurt in those games or if this happened. And so the bottom line is we didn't execute and play well enough to win those games. And as hard as it is, I wish I could make an excuse. But our defense played great all year for us. And really, you think of Sean Lee and the way those guys were flying around all year. It was a great team for us. And, but at the same time, you're not playing in this game, as Shannon made clear coming in. That's the motivation. And you come to Dallas, and fortunately I've been there 14 years, you understand the bar is set to compete for these type of games and play in this setting. And when you don't, as a leader, you have to evaluate that and be motivated and driven by that to get back. But it comes down to execution, a few plays, and give Green Bay credit. They played well, and then obviously the next week, these two teams, Atlanta and New England, they played better at key times.
You're heading into year 15. As you mentioned, you were 13-3. You had the bye. As you get older and you realize these opportunities are getting fewer and fewer, do the losses hurt more?
I think so. The losses always hurt, but I think, as you know, when you get older, it just you know how precious these moments are,
right?
And it's as when you're young, you maybe have an opportunity to get back and go do it again. But the older you get, the more you have to look
Cherish
at that.
these.
Yeah, but what I keep telling myself is just go back in there and stoke the fire. You got to go light it, and that's something that's I've been able to hang my hat on my entire career, and I'll be extremely motivated and go back to work and understand what the bar is set for me, and hopefully play at that high level.
You have another year on your contract. How many more years do you want to play, and how many more years do you think you can play at the level that you set for yourself?
Yeah, I take it 1 year at a time. When you get as a veteran player, it seems like more and more they ask you. Every time you go somewhere, they ask you those questions. And I just think it's fair to just say, hey, take it 1 year at a time. And for me, in this offense, it's pretty unique. I mean, a lot of it is being able to run the football. Our identity is within our offensive line, being able to run the football, and some of that pressure's off of you. The option route, some of that stuff. And that's kind of been my go-to ticket all my entire career. It's never been a burner-type player that's just running down the seam. It's leverage, attacking that, using your body and getting in positions to get open. And I still feel like I can play at that high level.
So, Jason, you're one of Tony Romo's closest friends, if not his best friend. Can you give us some insight into just how hard it was for Tony to go through this year and then to concede the job to Dak Prescott publicly?
Yeah, I mean, I think back to what Tony did coming off 2015, how hard he worked to get in position. I think he knew he had a good team around him going into training camp. When he got hurt in Seattle in the third preseason game, that was certainly a setback when you look at it. But I was really proud of how he handled that. I mean, to have that press conference and to say the things he did and the way that he said it, said a lot about who he was and where he was at. And, and then you can't say enough about Dak and the relationship they had. I know this, being a leader in that locker room, it made it a lot easier for all of us, seeing how each of them both handled that situation. And I think it started with the way Tony handled his press conference, and then Dak every step of the way. I mean, he doesn't act like a rookie. I don't view Dak Prescott as a rookie, and that's, as Shannon knows as a veteran, that's a compliment to him and how he's approached the game. He's got a bright future ahead of him. But, Tony had a chance to get in there in the Philadelphia game. I don't know that any of us know what lies ahead, but he can play this game. He can play at a high level.
Jerry knows.
Jerry certainly does. And those guys are intelligent, Tony and Jerry and Coach Garrett. I mean, I'm sure they'll spend some time and evaluate it and see how it plays out. But Tony did for a long time. I mean, he played at a high level.
Did Tony ask you for any advice before he made that concession speech? Did you talk it through with him?
No, we didn't really talk a whole lot through it. I mean, I think, the time was coming that I think everybody was knowing that he was eventually coming back here. And I think he put a lot of thought and time into how do you go about that? Do you take questions? Do you don't take questions? How does something like that transpire? And I thought it was beautiful in the way that he approached it, and it was very heartfelt. It was honest, sincere, and I think it was the right way to go about it. And it says a lot about him. And I know it probably helped Dak and all of us make that transition moving forward so that it wasn't a distraction. And I think ultimately that's what he wanted.
So do you feel like right here, right now, it's Dak Prescott's football team?
Yeah, I mean, Dak was 13-3 in the way he played at a high level. He's got a bright future ahead of him. I mean, how everything plays out moving forward. I mean, Dak's certainly got a bright future with that. And what's Tony role within that? I think, they'll get together and work that out. I don't know that's I think what Dak's shown through his first year, that ultimately, what our football team's trying to do moving forward, I think that's clear.
You said that you don't view Dak as a rookie. What makes him unique?
Well, I think I would start off with saying I think he's a lot more accurate than people probably thought coming in when you look at a fourth-round pick. Certainly he's got ability to get outside the pocket and can extend plays and can run. But his ability, his accuracy, but to me it's not even with the ball in his hand. It's the intangibles that he brings day in and day out. He doesn't act like a rookie in that, how he handles meetings, how he handles the press, his workouts, the way he converses with his teammates and engages. All those things, he seems a little bit older than his years. And then his play, he's very poised when he's out there in the field. So I think a lot of that he's seen Tony do and the interaction that he's had with those guys and good people around him. And I think that's the thing that stands out most with him.
How much easier would it be for Dak to continue to grow next year if Tony weren't on the team?
I don't think that has anything to do with it. I mean, I think Dak would say Tony was always helping him within games and thinking about this. And I think what you saw in that press conference was really Tony's heart. And he was always there to help in whatever role he can do. and talk with him and, hey, maybe think about this. And so, I mean, Tony was in those shoes at one point in time too. And so I think there's a respect that goes in with that. And I know those two handle this extremely difficult situation. They both can play the position at a high level.
Do you think, Tony, as a starter, once you become a starter, it's hard to go into a backup role. Do you think Tony could be comfortable in a backup role?
Yeah, I don't know.
On that team?
I don't know that I can answer that. I mean, I think I know he's one of the most competitive guys I know. And, I don't know that that's ever been discussed and would even be talked about. But, I'm sure if he's wanting to play, then his expectation is that. And so where that is and how that transpires, I mean, I think, as you said, Jerry and some of those other guys will get together. They're intelligent. They're going to think it through, and they're going to do what's best for both of them.
Jason, thanks so much for joining us. And just to be clear, Skip and I think that you would dust him anyways. To be clear, we said it the whole time.
No mercy.
This is the Skip and Shannon Undisputed podcast, where we're delivering you an unscripted, unfiltered, undisputed version of the biggest topics of the day's show. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, like us on Facebook at Undisputed on FS1, follow on Twitter at Undisputed, and catch us at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 Pacific, Monday through Friday on FS1. You can find us on channel 219 on DirecTV, 150 on Dish. Thanks for listening, everyone. I'm your host, Joy Taylor. What a blast it has been this week, all week from Discovery Green in Houston. Just a reminder, we are live on Sunday on Fox for a special edition of Undisputed starting at noon Eastern. It'll be a lot of fun. Catch us on Sunday.
Fox Sports 1 of 1.